fabulous. No errors, no problems. Good old-fashioned in-and-out podcast.
Of course. That's what we do here. We do perfectly flawless execution every time.
No errors to pre-recording. Just start, play, edit, release.
I wanted to start with like a Mass Effect reference, but the only one I can think of is I Should Go, but that only works at the end of the podcast.
Well, we did have some calibrations.
We did have some calibrations, that's true.
See?
You did it.
We can
got there.
We can find a line. We got it. I am Mass Effect. So, it took me a while longer than Kyle. Kyle would already halfway completed the second run through on Insanity difficulty, but I finished Mass Effect the Legendary Edition. And so was Kyle. Almost twice over.
Yes, and despite being old games, I just wanted to sit down and have a chat about them because they're some of my favourites and I think there's a lot of interesting things we can talk about. So I reckon we just start on Mass Effect 1, go through the lot and just have a chat. Just talk about things we like, things we don't like, things we find interesting. I think it's going to be a fun time.
That's fine, that's a great idea. We've spoken about Mass Effect over the years, but we've never sat down to do a dissection. So this will be really fun,
exactly.
I think.
So, I'm most interested actually to hear your opinions now on Mass Effect 1, because you've never been a particular champion of Mass Effect 1, but I think the Legendary Edition has done a lot to boost that game specifically.
The Mass Effect Legendary Edition has completely overhauled Mass Effect 1 in a way I never thought possible. I guess it is actually possible, hindsight 2020 and the fact that they've done it, but I just thought there's no way this game's going to be made any better. I thought they were going to do I know they mentioned a lot in press releases beforehand what they were doing, but prior to that I thought they were just going to give us a Halo 3 MCC redo or Halo Reach, where it's the game plays identically, they just up its...
Yeah, that's kind of what they did for 2 and 3.
Yeah, they actually went in and they rehauled gameplay. Buttons still do the same thing, but everything handles differently, which makes the game infinitely more playable. It's aged so much better. I actually discovered something recently that I told you about when I was doing it. Ladies and gentlemen, I was shocked and horrified and immediately had to rectify the decision, though I've yet to do it. Apparently I never finished Mass Effect 1 on the Xbox 360. I don't have the achievements. I knew the story of Mass Effect 1. I must have over the years watched it on YouTube. This game came out over a decade ago, so through osmosis and culture I just knew the game, but apparently I'd never actually finished it. I'd played it, but I'd never finished it, and then when I went back to actually reload the 360 version on my Xbox Series X, because crossplay or backwards compatibility is god tier. Memories started flooding back to me. I had a save file from 2016, I think, from the last time I booted up Mass Effect 1, where I must have remembered and tried to have went back to Mass Effect 1, because I know I'd finished 2 and 3. I had all those achievements from 2012, that was fine. And my god, I've played the original Mass Effect 1, I've played Mass Effect 1 on the Legendary Edition, and I am now halfway through Mass Effect 1 on the Legendary Edition on Insanity mode. The hardest version of this game is just the easiest difficulty of the 360 version. That game is a nightmare historically. Jesus Christ. What? Even at the time, did people think this was great? People stuck with it for the story, surely, because what I will say is the story of Mass Effect 1 is really tight, and the world is really strong, the side stories are great, everything is spoken about, there's this fleshed out world ready to go, and the second and third games to that extent just kind of add to it and complement it, but the first game sets everything up pretty flawlessly.
That's what I love about the first game, but yeah, the gameplay originally was, even at the time it was not a selling point of the game. It's something you tolerated.
Yeah, the gameplay is horrific. I'm still intending to maybe try and bite down and do it for the 360 because I want it done. But oh god, that isn't easy now that I've played it all through. Insanity mode, normal mode, and the 360 version on the easiest difficulty. 360 version is still the most difficult. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. I still want to get it done. But, oh lord, my opinion on Mass Effect 1 is transformed.
If you haven't played Legendary Edition, I think it might be hard to understand how different the game feels to play. If you just watch a Let's Play, it looks quite similar.
Yeah.
But when you actually have it just feels like I don't know, I don't want to say it feels like a modern game, but it feels like a game that you can play.
It feels tighter.
In the original one on the 360, aiming an enemy doesn't actually mean you're going to hit the enemy.
Your entire reticle just has an RNG spread to it.
Yes.
Or if you're using the Mako, if you're aiming at something, but there's something kind of obtrusing the view of the actual cannon, it'll just hit something else.
Yes.
Also, the Mako is a ridiculous bouncy castle mess.
Yes.
But, you know, it's fabulously overhauled. The guns actually work. The sniper can actually be a viable weapon now.
Yes.
I will have a criticism that says that sometimes in Mass Effect 1 when you're shooting stuff, it doesn't really feel like you're shooting stuff. And that goes for the same with biotic abilities. Sometimes I can see on their health readout stats that they are being affected. But it doesn't look like they have impact registers.
Yes, I know what you mean. And that's way worse in the original game. That's like a carryover from the base.
Well, I think that's just a product of it being a 2007 game.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine. That's not a criticism of this remaster. That's the game. Which is amazingly fixed in 2 and 3 on the original versions as well. So that's just a product of Mass Effect 1 entirely. But no, Mass Effect 1's great. The story's fantastic. Everything's fleshed out brilliantly, and I'm appreciating it now that I've sunk it in again, and now I'm going through the Insanity playthrough. I'm kind of skipping a lot of the story stuff and just letting them talk. I just want to shotgun campaign through it.
That's fair. You've just played it.
Yeah, I've done the story stuff, but it's great. I went full Paragon for my first playthrough of the entire trilogy, in fact. I'm going Renegade on Insanity, and my god, going Renegade is horrible.
Yeah, I know. I think it's actually worse in Mass Effect 1 because Mass Effect 1 lets you be like a proper racist asshole.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I don't trust these aliens on our ship.
Yeah, and I feel really bad for Liara as well. Like, she seems so innocent.
Yes.
We're spoiling this trilogy, by the way, if you're still listening. Like, she seems so, like, innocent. I know she's, like, over 100 years old, but she seems so innocent and, like, she's happy. She's, like, trying to help and do her best. And you're like, I don't trust you. Now, I did end up bringing her along to meet Benezia. You can ask her to stay on the ship, I think.
Yeah.
But I took her along, and that was fine. Like, I'm partial to a few Paragon moments. I messed up the romances in Mass Effect 1 in my first playthrough, so I'm having to keep Ashley in the good books this time, so I don't accidentally have to kill her in Vermeer. I had to kill her last time for an achievement, because I never used Caden enough. There's an achievement for 5 missions, ladies and gentlemen, with each member of your crew. Apparently I'd never done 5 missions with Caden before, so I got to the point where one of them had to die, and I was romancing Ashley. But I wanted the achievement, so I killed Ashley, saved Caden. The next mission I get the achievement for Caden. I should have done one earlier mission with Caden and everything would have been fine. So now on this Insanity playthrough, I'm being a racist asshole. I mean, it works. Ashley also a racist asshole.
Yeah, you know what? Thank God for those, though, the 5. Because in the original game, those achievements just said, use this companion for most of the missions. Which meant about 75% of the missions in the game, you had to use one companion. Which sucks, because you had to do 3 playthroughs of the game with only using 2 companions at a time. It's a terrible way to play.
That is a terrible way to play. Whereas you can now do it feasibly in one whole playthrough.
Exactly, and you can experiment with different combinations and get to know everyone a bit better. I think the trilogy, and if people don't know, I did recently do a video which was ostensibly about Jacob Taylor, but also about what the franchise does really well in terms of characterization of other characters.
Yeah.
I think the franchise has always been strongest in its characters. It's kind of true as well in 1, it's not as true as it is in the other games. I actually found that really interesting replaying 1 again, was how kind of basic the major companions are. Like Garrus and his whole arc in the first game is kind of really basic compared to where he goes in the franchise.
Garrus is quite interesting in Mass Effect 1 as your example, because he is just a CSEC officer that's just left the biz and he wants to hunt down Saren for fairly
normal
2D
reasons.
Yeah. It's not that deep. You just meet him on the Citadel and he's already wanting to hunt him down.
I love all of your conversations with Garrison and Normandy because of how kind of silly they are, where he's like, I think we should compromise in order to catch the bad guys, and then Shepard goes, no we shouldn't, and Garrus goes, I'll have to think about that.
I find the conversations with Garrus to actually be really tedious. I feel like I'm having the same conversation with him again.
Yes, that is a big issue.
He doesn't seem to be progressing with the story. He's just having other conversations roughly along the same lines.
Yes.
Whereas if you speak to Ashley or you speak to Rex, not even Rex, I think most of them actually kind of do that.
Yeah, it's a weird way I feel like not until Mass Effect 3 do they really have companions actually talk about what's happening in the story.
Yeah, in Mass Effect 2 I think they do a decent enough job, because you do like your loyalty missions and that's relative to that's relevant to the story, you know. And some people like a Miranda will be quite cold with you, then warm up to you as the story progresses, and it seems to be relevant to how well you're doing the job of hunting down the collectors. But yeah, Mass Effect 1, they do seem to be like completely different people on the planet surface as they are in the ship.
Yeah, and they are still good characters, and I think all of the characters in Mass Effect 1 get better as they go through the franchise.
Yes, When I got to the final mission in Mass Effect 3, I thought, right, okay, my squad will just be Mass Effect 1 characters. I brought Garrus and I brought Tali with me to Earth.
That's what I did too. The classic, the ones that have been with you, the whole squad. It feels right.
Yeah, feels right. I wasn't going to bring Caden because he sucks.
Oh, damn. You want to talk about Caden? Because I don't think Caden sucks.
You think Caden's a good Canadian kid.
He's a nice Canadian boy. I know people also think he's boring. I appreciate how awkward he is. He's written to be this weird, doesn't quite know how to socialize guy. Like, he always makes these weird comments that only he thinks are funny, and I find that quite endearing.
I can understand that, but at the same time, next to a bunch of characters that seem relatively clocked in, I'm like, come on, kid, and get with the program. We all know what's going on here. I don't have time for your shit. I actually quite like him, and it's ironically, I think I like him better as the games progress. Mm-hmm. However, as the games progress, he just becomes interchangeable with Ashley.
Yes, that is the big problem with the Vermeer choice, which is maybe the hardest choice in the whole series.
Yeah, so my first playthrough, I agreed that's because I had achievement versus romancing difficulties. I was going to lose an achievement no matter what I did. But yes, I would agree that's probably one of the most difficult choices. But yeah, no, so I'm just not big on Caden. I think he's quite boring in Mass Effect 1. I quite like him at the start of Mass Effect 3, and I quite like him when you have the encounter with him defending the Council in Mass Effect 3. But after he joins your crew, he just becomes Mass Effect 1 Caden again. I'm sick of it. Like, I enjoy he gets the promotion to Major, he becomes the second Spectre, but again, that's just stuff Ashley's going to do anyway if you pick Ashley to survive Vermeer. So I don't know how much it's Caden's a good character and how much it's just it's whoever survived was going to be the avatar for that. So my opinion on Caden, I guess, relies heavily on if he lived or died. If he lived, he gets better. If he died, Caden's really boring.
I feel like I have the same issue with Ashley. Like, as you say, she's also interchangeable with Caden, so she has all the same problems.
Yes, I will say though I like her more in Mass Effect 1, where they aren't interchangeable, they're two distinct people.
Yes. And maybe we can talk about it when we get to Mass Effect 3, but Ashley's design change in Mass Effect 3, awful. I don't know why they did it.
It was weird. It's like a skirt armor she's got on.
She has like a weird secretary outfit, and it just doesn't match Ashley's personality at all.
This game this franchise, maybe not Andromeda, I can't remember. This franchise, the trilogy anyway, heavily sexualized women.
Yes, it's interesting that it gets more extreme as the franchise goes on. Like in Mass Effect 1, it's actually not that big a deal, but by the third game, everyone's got boob windows, and it's getting ridiculous. And I feel like I'm going to be a perv for noticing this, but it's something you can't avoid, especially if you're playing as a female Shepard. Everyone's boobs get bigger as the franchise progresses. Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, most of my crew are guys, but yeah, I would agree with that, obviously. Tali's always the quite modest one. So is Liara. You can't really sexualise Liara very much, or Tali, for that fact. Or at least I have Liara wearing combat armour, so... See, I always struggle to put people in the different outfits, because I just prefer their default outfits.
Well, see, I hate some of the default outfits. I think Garrus's default outfit in ME3 ain't great, but I think his other outfits aren't any better. So I had to just leave him with the default one. Tali in Mass Effect 3, I think, looks better because you can give her like the gold accents on her uniform. Mm-hmm. I like the gold accents. The gold accents really stick out. One thing that bothered me in this franchise playthrough was that seeing cutscenes, they just put their default gear back on.
Yes, that's the other reason which I don't like putting them in custom outfits, is they keep switching.
Yeah, that really annoyed me. Like, I'm surprised that isn't something they couldn't fix for the Legendary Edition. That seems quite small. Mm-hmm. I said maybe they were pre-rendered. I don't know how it works. No, so yeah, Mass Effect 1, all round a very tight game. It starts really solid, it ends really solid. Probably the grindiest of the original trilogy.
Yes.
To the point where I actually, on this second playthrough, I'm going down to do side stuff on planets because I want the XP to level up because I'm playing on Insanity. Mm-hmm. But I really resent it.
Yeah, you just stick on a podcast or a YouTube video and get it done, you know?
Yeah, I'm not having fun on planet surfaces at all in the Mako. It's fun in your first playthrough and you're discovering things, but now I just kind of want to finish the game as quick as possible, but I want the levels as soon as possible as well, so that I have less of a hard time. And I just hate it. I just absolutely hate it.
I've often said that Mass Effect 1 has both the best and the worst side content, because when you get into it, some of the kind of side stories are really interesting setups, like all the stuff which you hadn't discovered until now, which is Cerberus is in Mass Effect 1, and they show up in a bunch of the side quests, actually. And I wonder, I don't know if they'd always intended Cerberus to be a bigger part of the story, or if they just took this side quest point and made it part of the bigger story. I'd be curious to learn that.
Well, this stuck out to me actually last night when I was playing through. I think a lot of this, it's like the debate over how much George Lucas knew about the original Star Wars trilogy from the point one. I think they had a lot of ideas but didn't quite know what they were going to do with them. Because Cerberus is referred to as a rogue alliance spec ops group in Mass Effect 1.
Which is not what they are.
Mass Effect 2 and 3, they're very clearly not that. They're like Terra Nova and Star Trek Enterprise. They're like a human supremacy group. But they're nothing to do with the official government. They're like a private organisation. I think they probably knew that they were going to do something like that, but then when it came to actually breaking ground on Mass Effect 2's production and writing the story, they thought, right, we'll use Cerberus, but they completely changed their origins. Or maybe not. Maybe there could be some sense of reality to it, but they completely changed the actual layout of it, and how they actually executed it.
I do like the little references you get in Mass Effect 2, though. Like when Talik and Garrus come on board, they're like, do you remember those experiments we found?
Yes, which obviously I never had in Mass Effect 2 because I never finished Mass Effect 1, But yeah, it is interesting, and it's weird that they're in a lot of the side content. I thought maybe they would have had an entire DLC in Mass Effect 1 centred around them. Because there is a DLC, because when I was saying this to you earlier on as well, when I played the Asteroid DLC, where you get the Omni Tool at the end, they make a big deal about getting that Omni Tool. It's like a Paragon get. It doesn't matter at all.
It's a pretty good Omni Tool, to be fair. It's one of the best in the game.
What was annoying for me was when I played it the first time, I was a soldier who can't use Omni Tools. And then don't they say the AI on that asteroid was Edie in Mass Effect 3?
No, the AI on the moon was Edie.
I can't remember what happened in the moon in Mass Effect 1.
That's because it's a really boring mission. Hackett calls you and says that a VI has gone rogue on the moon, and you raid 3 identical bases full of robots, and then you shut it down, and then you unlock your specialty classes.
Yeah. Fair. I'm sort of happy that they never brought across Pinnacle Station.
Yeah, me too. I don't miss it.
I mean, I'd never played it, but I watched Let's Plays on it, and it's just the arcade thing they introduced in the Citadel DLC in Mass Effect 3.
It's literally just that, but not as good because Mass Effect 3's combat is perfect. Yeah.
What I will say though is I miss overcharged weapons and no clips.
You think they downgraded when they added ammunition?
I don't know. I'm a bit conflicted. I don't actually have a full answer for you in that, because when I played Mass Effect 2, I wanted to use space magic because I'd never used it really in Mass Effect. I was just a soldier for all 3 games originally in the 360.
Yeah, you picked the bad game to start on space magic.
On Mass Effect 2, I went the pure biotic that gets an SMG and a pistol. And I kept running out of pistol ammo so often I was getting infuriated. The SMG done nothing, and this is a normal difficulty. The SMG was just trash until you get a better one later on. And I was just really struggling. And I think I still love Mass Effect 2, but a lot of my colouring when I was playing it in the gameplay was like, my god, this is just such a grind. Then at one point you go in the collector ship and you're like, you can have an assault rifle or a sniper. What do you want? And I love snipers, I'm a sniper man, but I had to pick the assault rifle just to give me some sort of weapon I could use consistently, because it was such a grind. On Mass Effect 1's playthrough, actually, I've gone like a techie biotic type. I can't remember what class it is.
A Sentinel?
But I don't think it might be a Sentinel. I can do overload and stuff like that, but I specialise in snipers, and they let me pick a bonus weapon. It's snipers and pistols in the bonus, and I picked ARs, and I'm just specialising in snipers and assault rifles, because they're my 2 weapons of choice usually. But holy hell, Mass Effect 2 was not fun from a weapon standpoint.
Yeah, Mass Effect, it's weird now that we're kind of drifting into Mass Effect 2. I still have stuff I want to talk about Mass Effect 1, but yeah, Mass Effect 2 has like the worst combat now, kind of.
Yeah, it's almost accidental, because Mass Effect 1's combat is so different. It's not so different, it's still turn-based, it's not turn-based, like cover-based shooter. It's still the same premise of the gameplay, but Mass Effect 1 was different enough that after its overhaul, it has become significantly better, and Mass Effect 3 is better than Mass Effect 2, so now you either choose between Mass Effect 1 or 3 combat, and then 2 is just kind of left as a run.
Yeah, 2 is just like a prototype for 3's combat now.
Yeah. If you hate Mass Effect 1's combat, you still prefer 2 over 3. I mean 2 over 1, sorry. But if you really think that the improvements they made were significant leaps and bounds, you do feel bad for 2. Now 2 ain't bad, it's just not as good as 3, which I think I might notice a lot when I go back to 2 when I finish 1.
Yeah.
But it should be interesting, because I think actually 1's combat now really holds up.
Well, you're going to be trying 2 on Insanity, eh? Oh boy.
God, I'm going to cry. I want to say one more thing about the ammo thing. I'm over the thermal clips. When I played the Citadel DLC, I got that Lancer that you can get that uses thermal clips. Or uses overheating. You know what? It's all I used until I finished the game. I actually played Citadel right before the attack on the Illusive Man's base, so it was only like 2 or 3 missions I actually used it
That's
for.
why it gives you such powerful weapons in that DLC. Like the pistol, the silenced pistol it gives you in that DLC is so OP.
I thought that was just for the DLC, that was going to be really powerful, and I actually never used it again. Yeah, no, I picked up the Lancer, and holy hell, it was just nice to have a gun that I didn't need track ammo on. Now, obviously, if it overheats, it's still using the thermal clip system in Mass Effect 3, because that's baked in, so it just says out of ammo, and you've got to, you're like, it's basically a reload animation. You just hold it to the side and let it vent, but it takes a while. But it was nice. It was nice to not have to worry about ammo, because in Mass Effect 2 I was so paranoid about ammo all the time.
Well, yeah, Insanity's not going to help you on that.
Oh God, I wonder what I'm going to play as in Mass Effect 2.
Well, I went through my Insanity run as an infiltrator, so you can do it with a sniper rifle.
Yeah, I think range is probably best, because when it came to mechs, I always just kept killing the mech pilot. I kept just glassing it out, know. But yeah, so what do you want to finish up in Mass Effect 1 for? Sorry,
we've got some more character stuff. We touched on Rex, but this is your first playthrough of the trilogy with an alive Rex, which is crazy to me, because Rex to me is pivotal to Mass Effect 3.
Rex, actually, yes. Sorry, I was wondering what I was going to say there, but I know exactly what I'm saying. Mass Effect, the trilogy, changes if Rex is alive or dead, in my opinion.
Yes.
He makes the Krogans go from just generic alien species more akin to the Asari or the Solarians to being really sympathetic. Rex to me actually will make or break if you cure the genophage.
Yes. I would 100% agree.
Yeah. No, I think I did cure it in my 360 playthrough without Rex being alive, because I'm a nice guy. But yeah, no, he definitely will make the choice harder. Like if I in this Insanity playthrough I'm doing it where I'm playing a renegade, if I killed him, it would be a lot easier for me to then pick renegade options going forward, where I think him being alive will make it a lot harder. Also, I can't imagine him not being in the Citadel DLC. Yes. I can't imagine him not being in ME3 in general. In ME2, he's not really a big part of the game, but it's nice to see him.
That's the same for a lot of the companions in Mass Effect 2.
Fair. To me, because I never had Rex, Grunt was always my main Krogan. It's weird how much Grunt actually takes a back seat.
Yes.
I was quite annoyed not seeing more. I swear I remembered having more of him in Mass Effect 2, than 3 rather. It's crazy. There's a couple of things in the DLC that I never got, the Citadel DLC. We're jumping right to 3, but this is in relevance to the Krogan and Rex. There's a bit in Mass Effect 3 Citadel DLC where you sit around a table and you go Shepard, Rex, Grunt. You know that bit? I never got that, but that bit never happened for me.
Oh, it depends which version of the party you do. If you go like the high energy or low energy, it changes the dialogue in the party.
Right, okay. I started middle, then went high. I completely mixed out the lower tier. Right, okay, didn't know that. That's all I needed cleared up. But yeah, Rex is great. When I played Mass Effect 1, because actually, it's weird, I must have done Vermeer, but I've played, when I'm looking at my 360 playthrough, I've done it all out of order. I've done Vermeer, but when I've loaded up the save, I'm on Noveria, I think, but I'm stuck on Noveria. And I haven't freed Liara to Sony yet.
That's a terrible order to do things.
Yeah. So I've got Rex, Caden, Ashley, Tally, and I don't have Liara. And I must have had Rex, but Rex is dead. And I didn't know that was going to kill Rex. I didn't, because I thought, going through the lens of Mass Effect 2...
Do anything in any order, yeah.
Not necessarily do anything in any order, but do everything before the suicide mission, and then that's where people will live or die, and I just assumed that's what Mass Effect 1 was going to do. I had no idea they were just going to shoot because I didn't know how close Vermeer was to the end in retrospect. They were supposed to be. I didn't have a Scooby that the Rex could die there, and I was shocked when Ashley shot him. Because also I didn't really get Paragon and Renegade's importance. I didn't really have to commit if you just kind of picked either of them in any given instance, you'll end up with a really middling score for both, and you won't be able to make some critical options.
Yes.
Yeah, no, Rex really changes Mass Effect 1 and 2 and 3.
Whether he lives or dies might be one of the most impactful choices across the series, I'd say, even more so than Ashley or Kaden, because they just become interchangeable.
Yeah, definitely. I would say Rex's life and death is really a big impact on the trilogy.
Which is great, because he is one of my favourite characters in the trilogy. Like, the Krogan could come across as, and for the most part a lot of them do come across as very generic Klingon-style warrior aliens, you know?
Yeah.
But I love the nuance of how Rex, he plays up that stereotype a bit, but he actually doesn't fall into it that much.
Yeah, he's doing it for, like, almost the meme, but in reality he knows there's a bigger responsibility.
Like, sure, he enjoys fighting, but I love his arc across the series, where in Mass Effect 1, he's just really bitter and jaded about it, and he's just given up on his species. He's like,
in Mass Effect 1, he's Krogan bounty hunter. That comes back to how much they knew they were going to play out. Like, in Mass Effect 2, you know, everything spirals, and then Mass Effect, you know, he's the head of Clan Ardnot, and everything changes after he helped kill Sovereign at the end of Mass Effect 1. And I think actually the transition from 1 to 2 is really clean, where I don't think it's very clean between 2 and 3.
Yeah.
But we'll get there, because I did say I've noticed some things with ME3. I think that he was just a bounty hunter, then he goes to the head of the Krogan species, essentially.
Yeah.
I know there was some competition with Werlock in 2, but by 3 that's not an issue. He's in charge.
Yes.
And I'm like, wow, you really went from bounty hunter to lead, and I do wonder how much that was planned. I don't think it was, actually. You know?
Well, I don't know. If you talk to him in 1, he does talk about how he tried this before, right? So
possibly, yeah.
And he talks about how he had to, like, murder his dad, and that's when he left and all that stuff.
I guess they had a backstory. Again, the Mass Effect 1 is such just a tight world game. Like, if that game never got a sequel, it would be the type of game that everyone cries to get a sequel for. Gameplay aside.
I mean, one last thing. Let's just talk about the universe of, because this will be relevant to the next 2 games as well. Just the universe of Mass Effect. I just love how realised it is. Like, it feels like it could be real, and I love that.
It is incredibly realised.
Like, you can go so in-depth on all those codex entries and all the backstory of all the different species and all this stuff.
Yep.
But there's one thing that always bugs me. It's a nitpick I've had across the trilogy, which is finally resolved by Andromeda, actually, which is you never see any females of the species, and it always bugs me. Did you realise you don't see a female Turian until the Omega DLC in Mass Effect 3? That's the first female Turian in the series.
You meet a female on Citadel. Well, I guess you play Omega first. That's fair. Yeah, And
I know why this is. It's because they've got, instead of having humans and then all the alien species, they have, in the mindset of writing it, they have humans and aliens. And the Asari are the female aliens, so you don't need female aliens of any of the other type.
Yeah, I always knew the absence of female Krogan were quite a big deal. I mean, to be honest, there could have been female Turians sitting around the Citadel when you're running by them. I haven't looked. There are female humans, but I guess they're humans.
Yeah, I mean, humans, obviously. I just, like, you don't see a female Solarian until the Dalatras in Mass Effect 3. You never see, like, a female Volus or Elcar.
Yeah.
I understand why this is. It's because they'd have to, like, design an entire different species of... Because basically for all the Turians, they just use the same model, right? So...
Basically, they just paint them differently.
Yeah. So I understand why it was probably a budgetary thing, but it's a nitpick thing that you notice. Especially when you play the games as much as I do.
Well, you've got a nitpick. I've got a fabulous realisation.
What?
Now, again, all makes sense. They've thought of all this in their smart cookies. But I hadn't quite made the connection as to, like, the cycle of the Reapers and the Protheans and how this has happened before, and the Protheans weren't the first. The Protheans didn't build the Citadel, they discovered the Citadel as well.
Yes.
And everything's, like, the Reapers basically designed the path for all species to evolve and follow.
Yes.
Like, there's a reason that everyone uses Mass Effect drives and biotic abilities, and the Citadel basically runs on the same technology as Asari and Solarians and humans. Like, everyone basically uses the same form of technology, even if it's at different levels of advancement.
Yes, the main one is the mass relays, which just connect the galaxy.
Yeah, and how everything is compatible. Like, human technology and Asari technology or Turian technology, it's all broadly compatible. It's like in the Avatar films where all the different species can plug into each other, you know?
Yes.
It's all because it's designed by the same course that the Reapers have kind of made humans and other species follow this path so they can rise up and then easily made extinct.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know this prior to my Legendary Edition run through, despite having played 2 and 3 extensively, in fact.
Well, yeah, because 1 is the one that really lays all that out in the conversation with Vigil, which I guess you never got to in your original playthrough.
Never got to it. And the Keepers were like a previous super advanced species, but they've just been now turned into janitors, the same way Collectors were turned into husks. And there's other species before that, and there's Leviathan. I knew Leviathan was what the Reaper Sovereign classes were based off of, but I never knew they really started the whole thing. I don't know why. I played that DLC on the 360. I don't know why I never made the connection that they were the ones that created the Reapers. I just thought they were victims of a previous cycle that went into hiding like Javik. I appreciated the Geth story a lot more this time. My understanding of it didn't change, I just appreciated it more. And I'm surprised the amount of right choices I made, by the way, in Mass Effect 2 that gave me the best ending for 3. There's a lot of things you can do in 2 that really fuck up 3 for you.
Yes, a lot of really like small things that you wouldn't think about, like whether you destroy or save the data in Morden's loyalty mission. Super important. Or
with Legion, the Heretics. Is that 3?
No, it's 2, where you destroy or save the heretics.
Yeah, like that's pivotal as well to getting both teams on side in Mass Effect 3, isn't it? You can get it either way, but I think it's harder if you save the heretics, because they have like that kind of like Reaper-ness in them somewhere. Right, okay. Well, it's like I say, it's absolutely crazy. Like, I actually think 1 is quite self-contained, apart from Rex.
Yes.
Apart from Rex, choices made in 1. Saving the council as well, I guess.
There's a lot of the choices that they kind of walk back, which is a nitpick across the trilogy. Like, whether you save or kill the Rachni Queen seems super important when you do it, but by 3, it's really not that pivotal.
Yeah, because they just make a Reaper clone anyway if you don't...
Exactly, yeah.
That's my criticism with 3. A lot of choices that you make in 1, not even necessarily 1, primarily 2, feel quite... doesn't matter. But that's because 3 is famously, it was rushed into production. I think they were cut 6 months of the production schedule or something.
Yes, something like that.
You know, like you could, which I think I'm going to do actually in this Renegade run through, because I didn't know you could do it. This is news to me. You can install like a human fascist council if you let them die. I want to do that just because I think that's so wild to me. That is like, that feels so out of left field. That's like true role playing.
Yeah, that is not something that carries over all the way to 3.
Yeah, but the council in Mass Effect 2 are in like 1 scene, maybe 2.
Yes.
And they don't even feel like they're hanging over you. Even though you can still get your Spectre status back in Mass Effect 2, it's not really relevant.
No, it helps in a few really minor ways, but that's about it.
It's not a big deal at all. So I kind of wonder how much they could have done with 3 had all your true RPG choices actually followed through. Because and even in Mass Effect 2, you can mess up the suicide mission so much that the game just ends. Shepard dies, the only survivor's Joker, and you get a single scene with the Elusive Man, and then mission failed, and you can't import a save to Mass Effect 3 because Shepard's dead. Like, it's all... That's like super interesting stuff you can do right there, but 3... pretty much anything you've done doesn't really matter, except the Vermeer survivor, Rex, Grunt can be awake or not awake, Legion you can have taken on board.
The weirdest one is when you first get Legion, you have the option to sell him to Cerberus.
Yep.
And if you do that, he shows up on the Elusive Man's base as like a generic enemy.
Yep. So does Jack, I think, really.
Yes, right? If you don't do the Grissom Academy mission, Jack shows up on the Elusive Man's base.
Crazy. Wild.
It's always strange to think
so
about.
Does the Justicar's daughter, I think, shows up as a Banshee on Earth.
Yes, Morinth.
Yeah, but that's just that all that to me is like wild, that like all these big choices they try and taper it off, but they give it no real screen time.
It's because a lot of the times the minor choices end up being more impactful.
Yeah. So that is my big problem with 3, I think. Overall, I know the ending's got a lot of shit. I picked Synthesis, by the way, in case anyone's wondering, for 3.
Oh, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, but I feel like 3 really was the most linear of the games. It was super, your choices don't make a big difference. You're going to get Galactic Readiness and win the game anyway. Who cares if you installed a human fascist council, you know? I mean, in dialogue they'll say, well, you saved Destiny Ascension, or in written dialogue in the war assets is, well, you saved the Destiny Ascension, so I'll help. But you also sacrificed a lot of the human fleet, so they're not at full strength either. So everything kind of balances out, but it's all written. You never see any game choices change.
The most impactful changes in Mass Effect 3 are who lived and died on the suicide mission, which which you don't really notice if you played the game. It's not actually that hard. I used to think it was really hard to keep everyone alive through the suicide mission. It's actually not if you know what you're doing.
I accidentally kept everyone alive on my 360 playthrough.
Yeah, you just have to not be an idiot about who you send in the specialty missions.
Send a tech person. Have a leader. Pick a leader, a strong biotic. Well, we've got a couple of them. Just don't pick Morden or Grunt as your biotic, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, don't pick Thane. Thane is not a super strong biotic.
Yeah, it's not the hardest thing in the world to do.
I guess we're on to Mass Effect 2. Let's talk Mass Effect 2. Mass Effect 2 is a lot of people's favourites. I found, especially this time, I've always known this, but I find it interesting how Mass Effect 2 really is, for the most part, in the grand arc of the games, kind of worthless in terms of the Reaper invasion and all that stuff. The Collectors are a real, side villain, really.
Yeah, it's definitely its own thing. 1 is the Reapers, and then 3 almost was like a continuation of the Reaper threat, and 2 was like a weird thing with Cerberus. The Reapers are very much present, the Collectors are directly working for the Reapers. But they do feel like a speed bump, but I still think it's probably my favourite game on reflection. I just think the story stuff is the best. I think the Normandy's interior looks the best. The exterior, arguably, Mass Effect 1's Normandy's the best, but I hate Mass Effect 3's War Room
Dark,
look.
yeah.
Though the exterior with the Alliance colours is nice. I think arguably it's too big, but I think, and I do think it's too big, because I never had the DLC.
I would argue that too, yeah.
I never had the DLC characters in my 360 playthrough for Mass Effect 2, so I didn't know it could get any bigger. I didn't know they even existed. Arguably it's too big, but I think everything just clicks. I think the Elusive Man stuff's quite good. I actually think the Cerberus stuff's really compelling. I think there's somewhat of a genuine debate about it in Mass Effect 2, if maybe they are something different.
Yes, which is also one of the things that's kind of scrapped in 3, because 3 is just they're wholly evil.
Yeah, and even the Cerberus people you knew from Mass Effect 2 are we left.
Yeah.
Which I don't even think necessarily might be a criticism, it's just they've gone off the rails.
Yeah, it's something that is an interesting question, which I don't think has a definitive answer, which is, obviously by 3 the Elusive Man is indoctrinated. It's just a question of when did that happen?
I think it happened in 3. I don't think he's indoctrinated in 2.
But he does have the creepy robot eyes.
I think he's just got synthetic eyes to certain, because they always look like the stars were glistening in them, Captain Lorca in Star Trek Discovery. Very Elusive Man-y.
Martin Sheen, by the way, so great as the Elusive Man.
Fantastic. We spoke about this before we played it. If maybe at the end of Mass Effect 1 they would do a Halo 2 anniversary style epilogue cutscene just remastered for the Legendary Edition, setting up Mass Effect 2 with him and Miranda.
They literally could have just taken the seed of the star of Mass Effect 2 and put it at the end of Mass Effect 1 and it would have been fine.
Yes, it would have been wonderful, and see if they'd remastered it, because I think the Elusive Man's room is so cool.
Yes.
It almost looks like a glass box floating in space.
I saw a joke that I can't unhear now, which is basically that the Elusive Man just has that music always just playing on a speaker in his room, because every time it cuts to him, it has that Elusive Man theme, one of the most distinct ones in Mass Effect 2, I think.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. What I did always laugh though, when you complete a mission and you get the mission complete thing that comes up, which they don't have in either 1 or 3. It's just in Mass Effect 2, and that music plays, and you're always like, yeah, mission complete. It's good music for mission complete.
Yeah.
But it gets a bit old because the game's quite long.
Especially if you're doing some the really minor side missions.
Oh yeah, you do absolutely nothing. You go down and kill some people, and it's mission complete, dramatic music, Elusive Man's happy with you. You see, him sitting in his chair.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is he really? Does he even know I'm doing this? Because it is interesting. You become in Mass Effect 1, you're a Spectre. In Mass Effect 3, you're a Spectre. I think in Mass Effect 3 you become a Spectre again, regardless of how you play Mass Effect 2.
Yes.
But in Mass Effect 2, you're almost you still can be a Spectre again, like I was, but it doesn't mean much.
You're a rogue agent, yeah.
Yeah, you're like a Spectre for Cerberus in Mass Effect 2. Above Cerberus, you report directly to the Elusive Man, and you're just in charge.
I understand why they did it, because they can't have 2 entirely different versions of Mass Effect 2 where you just completely refuse to join Cerberus, even though I think it is a reasonable thing that Shepard would try and do, especially if you're playing Paragon, is be I refuse to work for Cerberus. But the game obviously doesn't allow you to do that.
I think they justify it quite well, though, because
they justify it by making the Alliance total idiots in Mass Effect 2.
I think they justify it quite well in Mass Effect 2 through dialogue as well, because they actually have, or even in 3, I think they do quite a good job at backtracking it because they're talking about it retrospectively. And there's a genuine discussion about how bad is Cerberus really, and then obviously you agree that they say the Alliance, they made them be complete idiots, and it was like, well, they were the only people willing to do something about the Collector threat, or the Reaper threat. It's fair, it's true, and I actually in Mass Effect 2 quite enjoyed the Cerberus story. I actually would wonder that would be true RPG playing again, like if you just didn't go with Cerberus for the game and you went Alliance. But I think that would completely negate the game. I can't even imagine playing Mass Effect 2 without Cerberus.
No, I agree, yeah. Because a lot of it is trying to navigate where the truth of Cerberus is, and I love that, because you talk to, like, the minor crewmates, like the 2 engineers and Kelly Chambers, and they're all just, like, these happy-go-lucky people, or my favourite character in the game, the least relevant person in the entire series, Mess Sergeant Rupert Gardner.
Dr. Chakwa.
No, I love Dr. Chakwas. Dr. Chakwas is great. No, Mess Sergeant Rupert Gardner, completely pointless character. Why is he there?
He's just there to have a nice little chat too. I like him.
But yeah, I don't know about because I know in Mass Effect 3 on the Ossifan's base, you learn that basically all of those people were handpicked to make it look like Cerberus wasn't evil.
And like he goes like, go find these old pilot Joker. Dr. Chakawa, go get her.
It's Dr. Chakwas.
Sorry, I'm forgetting that.
Do you know that Dr. Chakwas is literally just an anagram for hacksaw?
I did not know that. That's amazing. No, yeah, so again, I think Mass Effect 3 actually may or may not confirm Cerberus's completely evil from the beginning stance with everything being handpicked. But in Mass Effect 2, you don't know that yet. So I think it's a very good discussion to have.
Like, yes, and you go to... I love how dumb Cerberus is. Like, obviously, there's the Overlord DLC, which it's not great, it's okay.
See, I didn't even know that was DLC.
You didn't realise? Yeah, it's with Dr. Gavin Archer.
Yeah,
and his...
I never played DLC for Mass Effect 2. I don't think I did anyway. Whereas I got some DLC for Mass Effect 3. I got Leviathan and I got Javik. I think that was the 2 pieces of DLC I got for Mass Effect 3. By the way, Javik being DLC for Mass Effect 3 is wild, because I would argue he's essential.
I know, right? I think this was in the era when DLC was being real cheeky with what it was doing, because Javik, I agree, feels essential to Mass Effect 3.
In Mass Effect 1 and 2, your DLC crew aren't essential at all. They're completely disposable.
No, you can completely skip them.
Yeah, however, I do think that, again, in that era, that's actually quite a cool DLC. Entire new crewmates. It's not just like a suit pack. Yeah. They're whole new crewmates.
It annoys me that their stories are so, like,
boring,
condensed. Like, they don't have actual conversations.
Yeah, well, that's my problem. Mass Effect 3, every conversation is like a conversation with them in Mass Effect 2.
I actually don't mind it in 3 because a lot of the conversations in 2 are just like, can I wait for a bit? I'm in the middle of some calibrations, which is annoying.
I guess I don't need to sit and engage in a conversation just to be told I'm busy. I get that, I guess.
Yeah.
It does save time.
I prefer if they don't have anything interesting to say, they just don't.
Yeah, they don't interact. That's fair. That's fair.
I do like the DLC companions in Mass Effect 2. I mean, at least I like the idea of them. I don't like Zaid. I think Zaid's a big asshole. But that's what works about him, especially in his loyalty mission, is he clashes so much with the Paragon Shepard.
Yeah, he does. Which is kind of why I'm surprised, Elusive Man would have put him in a dossier.
Yes.
He's not that... I mean, I guess it's got to be open to Renegade players as well, but he's completely no point being there.
He's not a team player.
Yeah, why would Paragon Shepard want this guy on his crew?
Well, that's what I find interesting too, is if you do that mission after the suicide mission, you can actually leave him there to die.
Yeah, I knew that. I've seen videos of that. Crazy.
And I like Kasumi. I really like Kasumi's loyalty mission. It's one of my favourites.
Oh, the casino?
The
fancy
casino.
Party, the fancy party.
The fancy party heist, yeah.
I think she's got a good mission and a reasonably good story. I just think that when I'm picturing her on the collector base, I'm like, why are you here?
That's my big issue with Kasumi, is she always seems so out of place, like she belongs in a different series.
Yeah, I'm like, why are you here? Why are you here, Kasumi? You maybe you would have a place in like a less dangerous mission, but why are you on the collector base?
That's why I feel in my duty, I always send her back to escort the crew, because I'm like, she doesn't belong here, she doesn't want to be here. And she does talk about it in 3 a little bit, like how she's basically traumatized by it. If you want to hear my thoughts on Jacob Taylor, you can watch my video.
There's a reason we haven't spoke about Jacob Taylor. There isn't much to say. I actually don't dislike Jacob Taylor. I suppose you don't dislike him either. You just think there's nothing there to like or dislike.
Yeah,
I think I might be a little bit more sympathetic to him than you are. But that being said, I don't know if I would die on the hill of Jacob Taylor. This is the best person in Mass Effect history. He's fine.
Yeah,
he's fine. I don't think I would be so critical as to have done a video saying he's boring. But
well, I mean, how often did you bring Jacob on missions? Probably not much, right?
Not much, but that's because I thought his weapon set was quite boring.
Well, that's a problem too.
Yeah, that's a problem too. I think maybe had he had more interesting gear, maybe I'd brought him more other crew members with better weapons and have his power set.
And have more interesting things to say.
Yeah, I suppose so. They could, like, certain characters can have unique dialogue if you bring them in certain missions. I can't imagine what Jacob Taylor would have to say in any given instance.
Well, I can, because I played through the entire game with Jacob and he never said anything interesting, so...
You've probably given Jacob Taylor more game time than anyone else to have ever played Mass Effect.
It's true. It's true. This is what I do. I focus on really random things to make videos on, okay? Arrival DLC is the most important thing that happens in Mass Effect 2, and I find that really interesting.
Or the one that you could easily do before you destroy the collectors and it makes no sense.
Yes.
Yeah, I would grant you that. I think it's quite an interesting story as well, and it was really cool seeing a mass relay being destroyed. The fact that that's DLC is wild.
I love how tense that DLC is too, where it's like, if I don't do this in half an hour, the entire universe is doomed.
I never felt the stakes, I just saw the timer all the time. I never felt like the Reapers were about to come through a mass relay. It all felt so unexpected. I was like, see if I didn't do anything, are they really coming through? They're really coming through.
It's weird too how Mass Effect 3 flows a lot better if you start it right after Arrival.
That's what I done.
Because you talk to Hackett and he's like, once you're done here, you need to come in and you need to be court-martialed for this because you blew up and killed 300,000 people.
Which I always thought was unfair. Well, I suppose Hackett kind of picks your side. Hackett's like, I understand, but it's got to be done.
Yeah.
And I'm like, does he even really need to come in? He's a council spectre working for Cerberus. Is he even loyal to you? The ship isn't even Alliance.
Yeah, they don't want to start war with the Batarians or whatever. You know,
yeah, and they still give you shit
drama
for that in Mass Effect 3, even if you never played the DLC, by the way.
Yes, I know, but that's why I say it flows a lot better if you've played Arrival.
Right, so I want to quickly get into my criticisms about this Mass Effect 3 or 2 to 3 as opposed to 1 to 2.
Okay.
So I think that Mass Effect 2's start is really great. Everything, it's another day in the fleet. Rex and Tali and Garrus are all in the Normandy, everything's fine. That's implied anyway. And then the collectors attack and everything goes shit, tits up, you know? Everything's crazy.
I love that it even starts with the Mass Effect Normandy music.
Yep. Feels like you're at home. It's just it's like Star Trek. It's another day in the fleet. Nothing compelling happening at all. And then until everything goes awful.
Yeah, per Presley.
Yeah.
Per Navigator Presley.
Then you jump 2 years and everything's flipped on its head. People have moved on with their lives. They thought you were dead. That all makes sense to me. They've got new priorities in life that would explain why they all can't, like Rex just can't come back. And they explain why he can't just show up again. Now, for Mass Effect 3, my criticism is that it's like, what, you've been grounded for 6 months?
Yes.
But again, I don't really buy that you would be grounded for that much time. And also, I'm surprised that the crew have all moved on so quickly. And people just can't come back. And I'm like...
It's my favourite running joke in Mass Effect 3 is all of the crew members and the ridiculous excuses they have for not rejoining the squad.
Yeah, but I was just like, when you're running around with James, who the hell's James, Freddie Prinze Jr.? Why are you in this game? Like,
See, I agree, but I do kind of like James as a character. I think he's fun, but he does not belong there.
Yeah, he's funny, but he doesn't belong in the game, and I never cared for him much at all, to be honest with you. He was like another Caden, in my opinion. Like, I feel like, honestly, if Ashley was still alive, James is received better, because he's the macho other man in your crew. But if I kept Caden alive, James is pointless.
Well, see, maybe I think he's fun because if with a female Shepard, he has a kind of, like, flirty relationship.
Right, okay, maybe that might be something that I'm losing out on. But I'm like, why are you in this game? And why aren't we here? Why aren't Shepard? Why are you just accepting that you've got this stranger on your ship?
Yeah. Well, it's unfair that they got to know each other when Shepard was grounded, I guess.
Yeah, I guess he comes into the room and he's like, we gotta go or something. Why aren't you trying to reassemble your Cerberus crew? Why is that not something that's at the top of your list? Where's Miranda? She, like, especially if you romance her and 2, you just don't seem to care. Where's Grunt? Doesn't seem to matter. Where's Liara? Doesn't seem to matter. Well, I guess you kind of know she's the Shadow Broker, but you don't seem pressured to get her. You seem pressured to get absolutely no one back. I can't even remember who your starter crew is in Mass Effect 3. Who have you got?
I mean, it's Liara and James.
Oh, I forgot you get Liara on Mars, don't you? Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Fair point. You don't try and seem to have any urge to get Tali or anything like that. But
I mean, you got shit to do, okay?
Why? Scour the galaxy to find your old crew. You need to get your crew back. You need to get your band back together. We need to stop this thing. No, we'll just lazily get some folk back when we can. Getting Garrus on Palaven almost seems like an accident.
That element of Mass Effect 3 doesn't particularly bother me, just because I think Mass Effect 3 whether you want to say it's too linear or not, which I think is a fair criticism, I think it's paced really well so that it always feels like we have got to get this done right now.
I do, apart from the Citadel DLC, which is a completely different shift, which is still great in its own right, but I don't think it actually fits in Mass Effect 3 very well.
No, it does not at all.
I agree that I do feel it's unlike with the Arrival DLC in 2, I feel there's a ticking clock in Mass Effect 3 actually, and I get the aesthetic of the Normandy, I get why it's like a partial done retrofit, but even after like the Citadel DLC where it's in dry dock for, refurbishing, they don't fix any of that. That would have been nice.
No.
It's like after the Citadel gets attacked, they leave it wrecked for the rest of the game. If they fixed the Normandy in the Citadel DLC, I would have liked that. I get this ticking clock and maybe you're rushing about, you don't really have time to scour the galaxy for folk, but when you run into them anyway, they're like, oh yeah, we knew where you were. And I'm like, well, maybe come. I'm just not a fan of the crew overall, I think, in 3. I know you can get a hell of a crew actually. You can get Tali back, and you can get Liara back, and
it's a proper reunion. I think that's what they were going for, and I understand why they didn't let you get all the crew back from Mass Effect 2, because they wanted it to be like a full circle. You've got the original crew back
with James
and Javik and Edie.
Yeah, it's I think 3's opening is quite powerful. But then after it, you're let's get back into the step of things, and you just don't get back into the step of things. I always felt like, oh, let's do this, and the game's like, nope, we're not doing that. I'm like, okay.
That's interesting. I did not have that. I don't have that problem with 3, but that's because I never expected to get any of the Mass Effect 2 crew back.
Why wouldn't you have expected that?
There's a lot of the crew in Mass Effect 2, which, like we said, I think the crew in Mass Effect 2 is too big, and I do like the crew, but for a lot of them I never felt the same emotional connection that I do to the original crew.
Well, to a certain extent I don't feel that you've got the full crew. Like, I know you...
Well, you don't. The only one you don't get is Rex. I
know, but I guess I don't like Caden. So I feel like I've only got Liara, Tali and Garrus there, but I never really use them all at the same time, because I found myself bringing Edie along a lot for some reason, because a lot of the stuff is to do with synthetics, and I was like, let's bring a synth along.
That's interesting.
Let's have some synth rights. I wanted to bring my synth representation. So I don't know. I always felt a little bit put out that there wasn't some sense of an urgency to get a crew that you can trust under your belt instead of generic Alliance command. In Mass Effect 1, I understand why you've got generic Alliance command. That's the ship, that's the mission. It's the crew that you served under with Anderson. You know them. But Mass Effect 2, I'm like, these are just people that had got out from dry dock. Take them to Hackett, switch out your crew.
I do like the new characters they introduced on the Normandy. I
quite like Trainer.
I like Trainer. I like Cortez. I really like Cortez, actually.
Cortez was nice. I'll grant you Cortez. I would have kicked James off immediately. The one part of the ship I always hated going was the cargo bay. The shuttle bay, I guess. Hated going down there. I always would go around, see if after missions, see if anyone had anything to say, and they usually did.
Yeah.
But I hated going down there.
Why? Because they always had the most boring thing to say? Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah, You get a journalist on your ship, you can kick her off for some reason. I guess if you're playing Renegade, maybe that might be relevant, but because I was Paragon, we never had a problem. And at one point I was like, you try and romance me? But then that never came up again, and she just kind of took up a room, you'd go and see her all the time, and she would have nothing to say unless she wanted an interview with you, and I was like, why is she on the ship? Why can't we just do this over?
I hate Diana Allers. She's a terrible character.
When we dock at the Citadel, why can't we do it when I dock at the Citadel, like with the punchy journalists from the other games? Why is she on the ship?
Yeah, Mass Effect 3 does do a lot of things with companions. I like that. I like that when you go to the Citadel, they're out doing their own thing. I enjoy that.
That's nice.
I really like the thing that they added for 3, where you can come across people arguing and you can pick a side. I really like that little system of.
I like that as well.
Just it's a small thing, but I love engaging with it, and I love that sometimes it actually has an actual effect on your war assets.
Yes, it gives you an update on a Citadel defense force or something.
Yeah, and it's always really minor, but it's something.
It is something. I do agree with you. I do enjoy it.
Well, I like that the companions in this game for the first time talk to each other on the ship. I like that they're not locked into their one room, that they can actually move around and interact with different people.
Yeah, sometimes they're standing in the middle hallway, or sometimes they're sitting in a room having a discussion. They're in the bar.
Yeah, I think it's after the main mission on Tuchanka, and Joker and Garrus are up on the bridge telling war jokes, and it's fun. It's a nice little thing going on.
I never saw Tali and Garrus coming.
No.
No. I opened that. I pressed A to open that door at the end, right? Mm-hmm. And I pressed A immediately to have a discussion with Garrus because I knew he was standing there. Mm-hmm. And instead I miss a whole line of dialogue because they say something as I intrude on them. I didn't see it coming at all. I was like, wait, what? What's this?
I didn't get that because I was romancing Garrus, so...
Oh, did you? Right, okay. I never romanced either of them.
No, you were a Miranda romance then. How very generic of you.
Very generic, indeed. I this is why I somewhat sympathise with Cerberus. I don't think I could romance an alien.
Wow. Racist much?
Xenophobic, I think you'll find.
Where's the fun if you don't romance an alien? Gosh, that's
just
weird. The selling point of the series.
I don't want to fuck a reptile, Kyle.
If you do romance an alien in Mass Effect 2, then you have an extremely funny line of dialogue with Morden, who gives you romantic advice.
It's just like Star Trek Voyager, when Harry Kim wants to romance an alien, and the Doctor's like, I have all this information about romancing alien species.
Yes, he tells you that because your Garrus is like dextro-based as opposed to amino-based, which is like a weird minor detail of the franchise, you shouldn't ingest. It's pretty great. I love Morden. Morden's one of my favourites.
Morden is great. Another person I was sad to lose in Mass Effect 3. I would have loved to have him on the crew, except instead he just kind of shows up.
I mean, what's interesting with Morden is he's the only one who actually intends to join the crew. Did you notice that? There's a little line of...
notice that, but you're right. You are right.
There's a line of dialogue where he's like, I'm going to stay around until the Reapers are done, and then I'm going to retire to a beach, which is obviously a sure sign that he's going to die.
I think maybe my Renegade playthrough, I might let him survive in secret.
There's a very specific series of events to allow that to happen. Rex has to be dead. Eve also has to be dead.
I can do it.
Do you know, by the way, what happens if you sabotage the genophage when Rex is alive?
Yeah, he comes to the Citadel and like gets really angry with you and you have to shoot him.
I watched it on YouTube once and it's like the most depressing scene I've ever seen. It's like, oh my gosh, you've done a horrible thing.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I'm surprised he found out, though. I'm really surprised. I feel like that was only for that interaction. The reason he found out.
You find out pretty quickly when you try to have a baby and nothing happens, don't you?
Maybe he's infertile in general. You know, maybe he was never going to have kids.
I mean, I think it's reasonable that Rex finds out. Rex is pretty smart, and obviously the first thing he's going to do is check, right?
Yes. He does have a line at the end saying that Eve's pregnant with the first kid.
Yeah.
She wants to name it after Morden.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the ending of Mass Effect 3, please.
Okay, so you pick Synthesis.
I was going to pick Destroy the entire time, and I speak to this little blue kid, and I'm like, you know what? I can't in good conscience pick Control. I don't want the Elusive Man's choice. And Destroy is what I would pick, and I was going to pick it, but then just something about Synth. It was the pinnacle of evolution, and it's not necessarily Control, but it's a whole new world. I had to go for it.
See, I unambiguously think Synthesis is the worst choice by far, so...
Really interesting. Why?
Because it's like biologically changing the entire galaxy against their will. Like, people like Javik, or people who absolutely hate synthetics, they do not want Synthesis. This is not what they asked for. I think it's a horrible thing to do to everyone to suddenly make them partly synthetic. It's horrible.
I thought it was, like the kid said, it's not something that can, necessarily everyone can just agree to. It's like someone's going to make that choice. And you see the Reapers actively helping people rebuild. Like, it's beautiful. And, you see earlier in the game, the Geth start helping Quarrens with their compromised immune systems and letting them live outside their suits within this lifetime. It's not going to take them forever.
That's part of it too, which is, I don't like the Star Child, and I don't think you're supposed to. I think in his dialogue, he very clearly favours Synthesis, which I think is an interesting choice. I assume you picked up on that, because you picked it.
Yeah, I did. But I genuinely believe the Star Child to be reasonably dispassionate. It was an algorithm that's looking for the best solution, admits that their solution they've been using for thousands and thousands of millennia now is broken, it no longer works, because we're this close with the Crucible. A new solution must be found, and this was the Harmony solution.
Well,
yes,
see,
it's not very democratic. It is being done to people, but the actual outcome in practice, I don't think it's that bad. Actually, because again, you do see the Reapers helping. It's vindicated, and the Geth are victims. Like, fuck you and your racism against synthetics. This is right.
I think the Star Child is a liar, because I have a very clear evidence of this. Because he says because I, by the way, always pick Destroy. That's just what I do. The whole game you've been aiming to destroy the Reapers, and I finished that mission. I know it says like all the synths that will die, and that's supposed to be like the thing that says you shouldn't do this, but I just can't pick anything else. But here's the thing. If the Star Child says, if you pick Destroy, then Shepard will die because Shepard is partly synthetic. If you pick Destroy, Shepard lives. So the Star Child's a bloody liar.
I think the Star Child is just necessarily wrong. I think the Star Child is not lying, but it's just incorrect.
But it's a super all-powerful AI. How can it be wrong about something so basic?
It was wrong about its initial solution for the Reapers, because that broke. Like, a computer can be wrong. Things can go awry. And, he's alive, but did you see the look of him? I mean, he was almost dead to begin with. I don't think he's in great shape.
No.
It's almost like a Legendary Edition Easter egg.
It's every time you say he, I have to double think in my brain.
Fair.
Because Shepard is a lady to me.
Shepard's lady to you. It's like the Legendary Edition in Halo 3, with the Forward Unto Dawn going over Requiem right at the end. Mm-hmm. And obviously it took them years to get to Halo 4.
Yeah.
But it almost feels like a little Easter egg to me, him still being alive. I never took it that seriously. Like, oh my god, he's alive. I was like, oh my god, he's alive, right? But I never was like, oh, the Star Child's a liar. That was never how I took it.
There's other things that make me think the Star Child's a liar too. Because when he says that, because his fundamental belief is that organics and synthetics can never cooperate, can never live in peace. This is like the thesis of the game at the end of the day, right? You did. You got the Quarians and the Geth to stop fighting, and it worked, and they were going to live in harmony. The Star Child's a liar.
For a time, like, doesn't it say if you destroy the Reapers, like, for a time everything will be great, but then you'll reach Leviathan levels and this will all kick up again that caused them to create the Reapers in the first place? Yeah. Like, everything's cyclical to a certain extent.
I don't think in those long terms, Nathan. I don't think millions of years in advance. Screw that.
Right, well, I do. That's why I picked Synthesis, because I wanted the distinction, the barriers to be removed for all to be one. And when you do that ending, it's immediately vindicated with visuals and dialogue. Like, you see it and hear it. Everything's become great. The Quarrens don't have their suits on anymore. The Reapers actively are helping reconstruct London that was destroyed by them. Like, everything's great and fantastic. Obviously, there's going to be problems. There's always going to be problems. You know, in the Return of the Jedi, they weren't going to dance around that Ewok fire forever. Life goes on. But the only one I actively couldn't choose, I think, would be Control. I actually think I could easily pick Destroy, because that's such a big part of the story.
Well, the issue with Control to me as well is it infers that Shepard is infallible, which I don't believe.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think in good conscience I could pick Control, because it's also just slavery.
Yeah.
But I think I could pick Genocide. I think I could quite easily pick Destroy, but yeah. I thought Synth. I think Synth and Destroy are the only two actual options.
But you don't think refusing is an actual option?
You used to walk away.
Yeah, you can
let
refuse.
The Reapers destroy the cycle.
Yeah.
Can I refuse to do anything?
Yeah, you can refuse, or if you're really feeling ballsy, you can choose to shoot the Star Child, and then he says in an evil Reaper voice, "So be it," and then the cycle ends.
What the Reapers just win?
Yeah, the Reapers win, and then you know the scene at the end with Neil Armstrong on a weird alien planet?
Is that Neil Armstrong?
Yes, it's Neil Armstrong.
Seriously?
Yeah.
That's amazing. I didn't know that.
I think it's Neil Armstrong. It's Neil Armstrong, or it's another famous astronaut.
Buzz Aldrin?
I think it's Neil Armstrong, though.
Because Buzz Aldrin's still alive. Neil Armstrong died in like 2011.
Ah, okay, maybe Buzz Aldrin then. It's one of the original astronauts. But yeah, if you do that, then it plays that scene, except it's like a weird alien talking to their weird alien grandson about how they eventually stopped the cycle.
So you're saying it's like an alien talking about how they stopped the cycle?
Yes. You should look it up, it's wild.
So the next cycle actually did defeat the Reapers, though? So
yes.
Is that confirmed?
I think so, yeah.
Crazy. And see, if you refuse, surely that's the same as the Reapers winning.
Yeah, it is.
So you can either shoot the Star Child or refuse, which is the same ending, or you can destroy, Synth, or Control.
Yeah.
So there's 4 endings.
The refuse one was actually added by the extended cut, which we should point out that we're playing this with the extended cut, because I think initially all of those like end slides which show you what happened, they weren't in the base game, which is another reason people did not like the ending.
Right, okay, I never knew there was an extended cut. Though I will say I didn't remember so much of those slides when I played the 360 version. I didn't remember all this. I remember the crash Normandy and them stepping outside the Normandy.
Yeah.
I remember the end with the old man speaking to the little girl, but I didn't remember anything else.
Yeah, that's because all of those picture slides are new. They added that as a piece of free DLC.
Right, okay, so they actually... Oh, DLC, I never knew that. To the 360 version as well?
Yes.
Interesting.
Which, I've never actually played it without the extended cut, and I'd be curious to see... Because I can see how, without that, the ending just kind of ends. It doesn't really... Like, you see the big blast go off, you see the immediate side effects, but you don't actually get a sense that...
I must have played it without it, because I didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Okay, well, let's move on to my final section then, which is rampant speculation about the next Mass Effect game.
Okay.
So you remember it was the Game Awards or something where they announced that they're working on a new Mass Effect game, and you see Liara, and the general implication seems to be that it's an actual Mass Effect 4. That seems to be the general consensus among people.
Yes, whereas Andromeda is like a sidequel.
Yes. With how distinct the ends to Mass Effect 3 are, how do you do a direct follow-up?
Well, it was always like a meme that the developers would always refuse to answer which ending was the canon ending.
Yes.
Because I don't think they knew. Because, again, 3 famously rushed into production. I think they just wanted to finish it.
I mean, in terms of actually continuing the plot, I feel like the only one that makes sense is Destroy.
Yes, I would agree. Synth is too utopian. Control is too wild, I guess.
It's kind of the same, because in the Control ending, you also see the Reapers, like, helping people and stuff, because Shepard is controlling them.
Yeah. Fair. And then
Destroy is just a morbid nightmare, Refuse is a morbid nightmare.
Yes, and Destroy is like the universe goes on, but all synth are dead.
Yeah.
Rip Geth, I guess.
Rip Geth, Rip Edie.
Rip Edie. I guess that would really fuck up the Quarrens as well, because they've got some Geth in their suits.
Well, in the slides you see that the Quarians are living on Rannoch. They still have their suits on, but they're living on the planet, so obviously not. Because the Star Child's a dirty liar.
The Star Child never said it would fuck the Corns. I'm just assuming it would. But yeah, no, that's... I think Destroy probably the one that's got the most life goes on, the story continues element to it.
Yeah, but how are they going to say, like, the ending you picked actually doesn't matter?
Unless they really go full RPG again and have all 3 endings actually mean something and let you import your... I think at this point, given how old the 360 Mass Effect 3 is, they would need to let you import your files from the Legendary Edition.
I'm sure they would. Or they could do the way that Dragon Age does it.
How does Dragon Age do it?
Dragon Age has a website where you go through and you pick every single choice you've ever made, and then it gives you a code that you can import into the game.
That would be cool.
It's kind of a mess, though, but yeah, it's the only way they could do it, because Dragon Age 1 and 2 are 360, and then Dragon Age Inquisition was on the 1. So they had to let you import it not via the console.
Yeah. Oh, I would get that. But no, that would be really interesting. I wonder if they would let you import any files from Andromeda, like any side decisions that you made that might come in like a DLC or something.
I still wish the next Mass Effect game was Andromeda 2, because we both said we were going to do an Andromeda playthrough, and then we just didn't. We just played the trilogy again.
Yeah. Well, I still intend to do Andromeda though. So what do you think is going to happen with 4? Because we're in the final minutes of this episode, so I would like to...
Let's see. Are you familiar with the indoctrination theory?
Remind me, I know it is a thing though.
It's a theory that basically the last hour basically of Mass Effect 3 is all kind of a dream, that it's a manifestation of Shepard resisting being indoctrinated.
But you don't go to the Illusive Man's base?
No, that part's just as right after you get hit by Harbinger and you wake up and everything's all like dreamy.
Oh right, okay. As you're about to jump onto like the thing takes you up to the Citadel?
Yes, basically everything after that point is an indoctrination attempt.
Oh right, okay.
I mean, I actually really like this theory. The developers have said that it wasn't their intention, so I don't pretend that it's actually real, but I think it's a really interesting theory, and it makes a lot of things make more sense to me. Like how the Illusive Man just kind of shows up, and he has weird space magic to control people that isn't biotics, it's something else. And also, in that scene, you see a lot of the dream effects because Shepard throughout the game has these nightmares about chasing the child. Yeah. And in the scene with the Illusive Man, a lot of those effects happen when the Illusive Man is doing things, and the whole scene is very dreamlike, especially when you first wake up, and it's all like kind of blurry, and it has this very dreamlike quality to it. And basically the theory says that if you pick Control, then basically you are indoctrinated, and same for Synthesis. Because you see in both, it's an interesting detail that if you pick Controller Synthesis, Shepard's eyes turn into like the Illusive Man's eyes. I assume you picked up on that.
I don't think I noticed, or if I did, I dismissed it as something else.
Yeah, if you jump into the beam or you pick Control, then in the last few seconds of Shepard being alive, you see his eyes turn, his or her eyes, I said his because you've been saying his, god damn it. You see their eyes turn into like the elusive man's synthetic eyes, which is an interesting detail.
That is interesting. And then so if I assume if you were to pick refuse, what does that do?
It's a good question, and it's one of the ones that doesn't really work with this theory.
Refuses just die.
Yeah, refuses just you die.
Yeah.
Whereas destroy
is you break free, then run up to the tower for real.
Yeah, which is why destroy is the only ending where you actually see Shepard wake up.
It's fair, and he's all in rubble.
Yeah.
To presume that he is still in London somewhere.
Exactly. So yeah, the developers have said it's not intentional, but I think it's a really interesting theory. And hey, if
Mass Effect 4's good,
for Mass Effect 4, they could just say, yeah, the indoctrination theory, it's canon. We have decided so.
I think that'd be such a big cop out. I'm not even gonna lie.
Of course it would.
The prologue to the game would be you waking up, going up to the Citadel, ending Mass Effect 3 again in another way, to make people think the ending was better now, and then the game just continues with Shepard and co.
I do not put it past them.
I suppose it would be a way for them to technically fix the end of 3.
I mean, in my opinion, if they're actually wanting to do a direct sequel to 3, which I don't think they should, but it seems like we're going to, it's really the only way you can do it.
I think it might be a few hundred years later. I think Liara is going to be considerably older. Maybe not a matriarch yet, because I think they still might want her to be like a crewmate, but I think that she might still...
Well, see, that's why I secretly want this next game to be an Andromeda sequel, because potentially Liara could still be alive by then, right? So, because Andromeda is set like 500 years after? Something like that?
Yeah, she could still be alive.
Yeah, she would be middle-aged. It's fine.
Yeah, but she was 106 by the 105 by the time of Mass Effect 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, she'd be she wouldn't be a matriarch yet, but she'd be like 600 years old or something.
She'd be like Samara aged.
Would you?
I think so. I think Samara's like 700.
Samara's a matriarch.
I don't think Samara is a matriarch.
I thought all Justicars were matriarchs.
No, they say that Samara's been doing this for like 400 years, but I never got the impression that she was actually like matriarch aged.
I thought well, it doesn't matter. But yeah, she would be old, but not so old that she couldn't be an effective crewmate.
Yeah, if anything, she'd be more powerful.
Yes, she would be. Still the Shadow Broker, though, I hope.
But yeah, I think actually an interesting place they could take Andromeda as a sequel would be if 500 years later, the Milky Way has developed technology so advanced that they can just warp to the Andromeda galaxy and make the entire journey of Andromeda kind of pointless.
Also, like the Andromeda crew from Andromeda wake up in their big pods, and there's like an Alliance crew waiting for them because they warped there from 500 years.
That's the story of like galaxy colonization, right? It would take so long, but by the time you get there would be people already there who developed more advanced technology. I think that would be an interesting story beat to hit.
It definitely would be interesting. I wouldn't say you're wrong there. And I would like to see more of Andromeda. Though maybe after I go back and replay Andromeda, I'll realise it's awful.
I think Andromeda ends with a lot of potential. A lot of potential that I'm forever worried that it's never going to be tapped, but potential nonetheless. Because, Mass Effect would be inferior if they stopped after 1. I mean, 1, as you say, is self-contained, but the trilogy is what makes it so memorable.
Yes, indeed, you're entirely correct. I would love to see more Andromeda. I'm excited to see more Mass Effect in general. I do wonder what they're going to do, because it's whatever they do, it's definitely got me interested. Because you see the N7 thing, you see an Omni tool, you see mass relays look a little bit adrift. To be honest with you,
well, that's why it's implied that it takes place after 4, right? Because no matter which ending you pick, the relays are destroyed in 4. Not in 3.
Yeah, in 3, yeah, the relays. No, I suppose they are, because they're used as cannons to propel whatever ending you choose.
Yeah, I know it. I know in Synthesis or Controller you see them being rebuilt again. You do not see that in Destroy.
Yeah, no, so, I'm interested infinitely to see where it'll go. I'm sure we'll be sitting here talking about Mass Effect for years to come. We'll have other episodes on Mass Effect. We'll probably maybe do one on Andromeda. We'll definitely do one on Mass Effect 4, whatever it is.
One on Andromeda would be interesting, actually.
Well, much like whoever said I should go in Mass Effect, so should I.